Masterpiece. It's gonna be a masterpiece, man. Let me check out the ratings and the fan reviews to see how people praise it. Bubble. If there's such an anime, director Tetsuo Araki, writer Gen Urobuchi, character designer Takeshi Obata, music composer Hiroyuki Sawano, and it's made by Wii Studio. Holy shit, will be the anime like that? That can't be right. It's like a wisdom of so many talented creators combined and mixed together into one awesome work, and it will absolutely become a benchmark in the Japanese animation industry. Alienai! I'll call this production crew an all-star team, man. Masterpiece. It's gonna be a masterpiece, man. Let me check out the ratings and the fan reviews to see how people praise it. You know what? This reminds me of an NBA team that seems to have a strong roster this season, but didn't make it to the playoffs. Hey, how's it going? It's Carter here. For some reasons, I recommend you guys an anime movie in my spring anime recommendation video. It's called Bubble. If you know anything about the industry, you see the PV when it was just announced, you will find out those who created Bubble are at the top of the industry. Simply put, it's those who will be invited to famous art school into the classroom to become guest lecturers. A lot of hype behind it. It's literally a luxury for a single animation work. It can also be said that this is like an all-star game. And I can tell you that the animation is just visually gorgeous. And I had a great watching experience with all the visuals and astounding soundtrack. But what the score shows to us isn't that masterpiece. Why is the anime also about chemistry? Bubble tells the story of young people living in an alternate version of Tokyo where novel gravitational rules has been changed by a rain of bubbles from the sky. 5 years prior, a weird phenomenon happened in the world. Countless bubbles fell from the sky. Their arrival brought chaos, transportation suspended, and a huge explosion in the center of Tokyo. A giant bubble enclosed Tokyo while bubbles stopped falling elsewhere in the world. It just reminded me of something in Inazuma. By the time accumulated bubbles burst and turned into water, thus Tokyo became an abandoned city in the Las Vegas of Japan. The residents decided to leave and abandon Tokyo, and it's pretty interesting to see a city submerged in water while many bubbles hit in the area. It is such an endangered city with such a group of young people. They did not leave Tokyo but instead used this phenomenon to play parkour competitions with this new gravitational rule. It's more like a gamble game between young people on supplies and food for daily needs. Hibiki, as the main character of the story, is a unique parkour god. He's one of the gifted players in the game, and he knows how to manipulate bubbles in the air. One day he hears the singing of the bubbles at the Tokyo Tower, but unfortunately falls into water under the influence of unstable gravity. In the nick of time, Bubble turns into a young mermaid and saves Hibiki's life. But there's a clear line outside the border between the girl and Hibiki, and once the girl touches Hibiki, the part of the girl turns into bubble and disappears. By the time you finish watching this part, you can already guess what the plot is going to be. Yup, it's The Little Mermaid. Hibiki named the girl Uta, which in English means song and poem. Uta is also constantly learning the human way of life in the process of getting along with these young people, and then becomes a crucial set for the parkour team. Gradually, Uta confirms her love for Hibiki. Obviously, this is a boy meets girl story, and for some spoiler of the story, let me just show you some clips.
なんで王子を助けた人魚姫がワインになって消えなきゃいけないわけ？ってこれってネタバレか。
Bubble continues the tradition of high-quality Japanese animation films. As an audience, my first impression of the film should be the beauty of the visuals. Throughout the entire animation, let's not talk about the story first, the watching experience it brought me was good. The film uses music to get you into the world they built. And as you can hear in the film, the melody is just beautiful. But I honestly didn't feel the comfort in this movie when I watched it. Many Japanese movies and animation works require audience to feel, to savor them carefully to feel the comfort in their story. But in Bubble, it felt like there was a lack of conflict enough to support the screenplay. And I don't know if you guys have the same feeling as I did, that you can almost guess the ending of the movie when you just started watching it. The concept and the setting in the work are actually pretty interesting, you know, like bubbles, parkour, new gravitational rules, things like that. And Bubble turns the ruins into an amusement track, and it combines various complex actions of parkour to stimulate your adrenaline through the way the camera rotates and follows the characters in the animation. And like some YouTubers says, this is an attack on bubbles. It's a boy meets girl story in such a world. The story itself is a little vague, which made me a little confused. I feel like it could be the cause for pacing of the film. Another reason this film confused me might be those bubbles. bubbles. In the story, Uta was curious about Hibiki's unusual hearing, which caused other bubbles to become hostile to Hibiki. But the movie didn't explain the concept of bubbles. You can understand what the bubbles are thinking, and you cannot figure out what the colors of the bubbles stand for. And there's very limited information we can get throughout the story. And even how a relationship develops between the two makes me feel, what the fuck is going on? And I had a kind of, how did you fall in love with each other? Question mark. I'm just saying I feel like this could be a budget issue. And a lot of information is simply mentioned or buried in the details of the shots. If you don't watch it carefully like me, you will be confused about some of the information about the movie. And after watching the entire movie, from a technical aspect it was good, but the story and characters did not engage my attention that much. I didn't notice any other characters other than Hibiki and Uta. I had no idea who they were. You know, it's like there are only 2 characters in the film. I had like 0 impressions of the other characters right after watching the entire movie. What I noticed when I first saw Hibiki was his headphone. And my first impression of him was a bit like Lukawa in Slam Dunk. But in the story, the role of Hibiki makes me feel his emotion is very delicate. And it's more like a girl. And Uta, when she first appeared, it was intriguing. She looks like a human but behaves like a completely different creature. She was just cute, and her voice made me feel like my money wasn't wasted. I even wanted to jump into the sea to wait for my mermaid to keep. But I do have some questions about the relationship between Hibiki and Uta. Obviously they had a great time together, but I don't think that's enough to support the love between the couple. And it's interesting that Uta had to read the script, and then she just finished the play the way director Anderson wanted. Bubble is a Japanese anime movie produced by Wit Studio. I think it's a modern Japanese version of Little Mermaid. I thought it was going to be a brand new story, but you know, halfway through you can almost guess what the ending is like. And elements of parkour and doomsday were added to this film. I don't know if it's because Tetsuo loves this shit. It's clear that most of the story is focused on the love between the boy and the girl. Think about it. Did parkour contribute to their relationship? I don't think so, because parkour is about being free, and it's not particularly emphasized in the story. And this problem still comes from the inner description of the character. And I believe a lot of you guys are as confused as I was. It's like you don't know what the characters need and what they want to do. Bubble is a mediocre anime movie. It might look good if you ignore the name on the hype poster. If you have a high expectation of its story, it may let you down. Not all anime movies are the same as your name, but from a production aspect, they've done a great job. Bubble continues the tradition of high-quality Japanese animation films. It literally blew me away with its animation, music, and intricate details. I would say the story itself made the film not as masterpiece as the hype on the poster made it. And thank you so much for watching the video. My channel is mainly about anime, films, and games. And you can see my previous review video and my detailed analyze series on the left side of your screen. And if you're interested in the content, make sure to book the like button and click subscribe on the right of the video. And that will spread it to more people, which will help a lot. Thank you. And I will see you next week.